Hi everyone, welcome back to the Sociology Experience. In this video, we will take a look at social stratification, systems of theories, and social mobility. Let's go ahead and get started with a definition of social stratification, which refers to a system by which a society ranks categories of people in a hierarchy. Every society stratifies its members in some form. There are three major systems of social stratification: slavery, caste, and class. Slavery is the ownership of some people by others. It is estimated that between 21 and 46 million people globally currently live in slavery. Caste. Though there are other examples, India is perhaps the best well-known caste system. The caste system was created hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It was outlawed by the Indian government in the 1950s. Even though it still exists to a lesser degree. It exists more in rural areas today than it does in urban areas. There are several major castes in India's caste system. You can see them listed on the right-hand side of your screen. At the very top, you have the Brahmins, followed by the Kshatriyas, the Vaisyas, the Sudras, and the Dalits. On this continuum, on the far right-hand side, let's take a look at some of the major characteristics of a class system. The first characteristic is that there is no upward mobility. What does that mean? That means that regardless of what anyone does in a caste system, by going to school, getting a degree, working very, very hard, there is absolutely nothing that they can do to move to a higher caste. Ascription-based, that means that it is given to you at birth. You have no choice over the matter. It is completely involuntary. Clear caste boundaries. Everyone in that society knows clearly what caste they are a part of. How? By where people live, the type of work they do, how they dress, how they speak, how they carry themselves, what they eat, and so on and so forth. Caste awareness level is high. Everyone in this caste system is very, very aware of what caste they fit into and what caste other people fit into. Endogenous social relations. That means that people of caste will marry, hang out with, work, and live around people of their caste. The third system of stratification is class. And class is based primarily on money and material possessions. Now I'm dedicating the next video in this series all about class and social class in the US. So my discussions at this point will be very limited. What I would like to do is look at what are the major characteristics of a class system. And so on the far left-hand side of your screen, the major characteristics of a class system include upward mobility is encouraged. That means that generally the previous generation will encourage the next generation to do what they feel that you need to do to move up the social class ladder, like going to school and getting a degree. Achievement-based. Well, the class system, when it starts for each individual person, is not achievement-based. It is ascribed, it's given to you. You are born into the family that you are born into. So you may be born into a rich family or a poor family. However, over time, as you become an adult, it will become achievement-based. indistinct class boundaries. Unlike the caste system, where everyone clearly knows which category they fit into, in the class system, we are not always clear as to if we are upper middle class or lower upper class or middle lower class. There are no clear distinct boundaries. Class awareness level is low. Not everyone is very sure of exactly how this is important to them, so they don't necessarily stress a lot of importance to it. And exogenous social relations, which means that people can marry, live with, work with people of different classes, but the research does show us that most people do associate with people from their own social class. All right, let's turn our attention to some theories of social stratification. In other words, why does social stratification exist at all? We're going to take a look at the structural functional theory from Davis and Moore. We will talk about social conflict theory and the views of Karl Marx, and then we will wrap it up by looking at Max Weber. So let's start with the Davis-Moore thesis, which states that social stratification has beneficial consequences for the operation of society. The greater the functional importance of a position, the more rewards a society attaches to it. For example, being a physician. So there are 4 points to their theory. Point number 1, society must make certain that its positions are filled. For example, we want to make sure that there are enough doctors in society. Number 2, some positions are more important than others. Again, doctors. Number 3, the most important positions must be filled by the more qualified people. In other words, we probably don't want people that are highly dedicated to learning and practicing their knowledge becoming physicians. And finally, number 4, to motivate the more qualified people to fill these positions, society must offer them greater rewards. For example, better salaries. Whereas the structural functional approach stresses how social stratification is functional for society, as with the Davis-Moore thesis, conflict theory argues that social stratification benefits some people and disadvantages others. So we take a look at Karl Marx, who believed that the Industrial Revolution promised humanity a society free from want, but was perplexed by why so much wealth was being created, but so many people lived in poverty. Marx believed that stratification, social class, depended on one's relationship to what he called the means of production. And he defined the means of production as the tools, factories, land, and investment capital used to produce wealth. Now, Marx said that there are 2 groups of people in capitalist societies. One group he called the bourgeoisie. They're also called the capitalist or industrialists. These are the people that own the means of production. The other group of people that he identified, he called the proletariat. We can call them the working class or simply the workers. And they work for those who own the means of production. Now, Max Weber agreed with some of what Marx supported, but stated that seeing property as the whole picture was short-sighted. He believed that social classes is actually made up of 3 components: property, power, and prestige. So let's look at each of these. Property or wealth is self-ownership of property or control over the means of production, even if people do not own it themselves. Power is about position, not just property ownership can lead to power. And prestige. One can have prestige with or without property. For example, someone who wins a gold medal at the Olympics. This is very, very prestigious. So if you take a minute and look on the right-hand side of your screen, what you will see is some research done by two sociologists, Gilbert and Call, that puts property, power, and prestige on a ladder. And the way this ladder is read, if you start at the very bottom of the ladder, the people at the bottom have very little, if any, property, power, and prestige. But as we work our way up the ladder, we will gain more property, power, and prestige. And so when we get to the people at the very top, these are the people that have the most property, power, and prestige, often called the 3 Ps. Now, let's take a look at social mobility, which refers to a change in position within the social hierarchy. So we have what's called intra-generational mobility, which is a change in social position occurring during a person's lifetime. So we could have upper social mobility, which is possible by earning a college degree, getting a higher paying job, and or marrying someone that's well-to-do. We also have downward social mobility, which can happen by dropping out of school, losing a job, and or divorcing. Then we have intergenerational mobility, which is the change that family members make in their social class from one generation to the next. Over the long term, social mobility is not so much a matter of individual changes as changes in society itself. Most social mobility involves small movement within one class level rather than large movement between classes. In fact, research shows that most Americans will stay close to where they start life economically. And then we have structural mobility, which refers to changes in society that affects the social class of large numbers of people. For example, the invention of the computer. New types of jobs were created, and as a result, large numbers of people switched from blue-collar work to white-collar work. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you back soon. Bye-bye.